No general's been fired for the debacles of Afghanistan.
Eric Prince is here, Don. So we're talking about security for your father, and there's no better man to talk about that. Yes, we're talking about how to secure a space so that there's no more headshots.
I think I'd start by not leaving rooftops uncovered inside 150 yards, but what do I know?
Within handgun range.
That's a handgun shot for some people we know.
Yep.
Crazy times.
Don, you've had Secret Service protection for years, right?
So, well, I don't now, no, but I did when my father was sitting president, and I know their protocols, and let's just say the protocols for me were really stringent, and they're far less stringent than they would be for a former president, and even less stringent, for a presumptive nominee. And so, again, Sean Curran, the guy that was on there, the guy in the sunglasses in the picture, great patriot, badass in action, but definitely something off. I've shot with those sniper teams. Came from a competitive long range shooting background. That doesn't happen. It doesn't go when people are in the crowd saying, "Hey, there's a guy on the roof with a gun" for 5 minutes. It's like, I'm not going to be the guy to start the conspiracy theory because I don't think you need to. There's enough sort of out there that I don't want to be that guy. But as a sort of pissed off son,
rightfully pissed off son.
It's like, that ain't right.
And I was just saying, I feel bad for the hard agents that are out there that are prepared.
And there's a lot of them. I have lifelong friends, guys that were on my detail. They're just badasses, and they're just
to be dragged down by people that just don't belong there. That's what's got to change. Because there's the pervasive culture of incompetence and non-accountability in Washington, and that will ruin America. So it's well on its way to.
So you're chalking it up to incompetence, not malice. This is the question that I think is on the minds of everyone.
I don't know.
Because they're not incompetent, right?
They're not. No. The teams, the individual guys. That doesn't mean there's not some incompetence that gets through, but they're probably not on a presidential detail. They're probably not this. That doesn't happen. I've shot some of the finest shooters I've ever shot with, and I came from a competitive long range background, as I mentioned it. The counter sniper teams. They're just great guys. There's a flaw, there's a break somewhere to allow that to happen, because it wouldn't have been able to happen to me when I had a detail, and that's a much smaller footprint than a guy like my father as a presumptive nominee.
But coming off the glass after the shooter starts shooting, that's wrong. Not having an advance and making sure that all those buildings and all that dead space is covered 140 yards away from where your event's going to be, completely unacceptable. When the shots are fired, not getting him off the X right away, standing him up. I don't care if your dad wanted to stand up, and it was great. His defiance was amazing. It was a Teddy Roosevelt moment.
I was like, it's maybe not the best move, but that's gonna make sense.
Get the shot.
That's gonna make the mugshot look like a child drew it in crayon. You know what I mean? Like that picture in the grand scheme of American history is gonna make the mugshot look like a child.
But I was cringing from a security perspective because it's not his call, and his detail should have been moving him off there immediately, whether he wanted to or not. That's a fact. And they should have been strong enough to make him do so, because he was in grave danger. Don't know if there's a second shooter. Clearly a chaotic situation. And they didn't get it done.
This was the question that I just asked, but perhaps you can have some insights here. How is somebody who's 2 feet shorter than your father supposed to cover your father in a situation like this? It makes no sense. These are questions that are going viral, Don.
Yeah, no, listen, and it wasn't that actually. You're talking about the blonde lady. That's height, but she at least sprung into action. She was, she actually was in the game. I'm watching someone else can't quite holster their sidearm. I'm saying, like, hey man, I'm not a professional law enforcement agent, but I know that that's not how it works operationally. And you see the ducking, and so there's definitely something that needs to be done, and it's not something that can be investigated by the FBI, who's a corrupted, biased. They're going to come up with whatever they come up with. It has to be investigated. Lance Gooden put out a thing to have a congressional committee or some sort of separate oversight committee, come in and look at all of the details that allowed that to happen, because the FBI is never going to give us if you bought a Bible, you're on their watch list. But if you shoot up as a trainee, you shoot up a Catholic school or a Christian school, they probably had it coming. it's such a broken agency. I don't think, even if, by the way, even if they came to the right answer, which I don't think they would, I don't think anyone would actually believe it because no one actually has any faith in those institutions anymore.
I agree.
A humiliating day for the Secret Service, guys. Let's toss up this imagery just so that everybody knows what Don Jr. is talking about. Here you can see the agent. Some have nicknamed her Agent Melissa McCarthy, being incapable of holstering her firearm, which seems like a bit of a security problem in its own right.
It's sadly, all of them are in what's called condition black. They have a massive adrenaline dump. Yeah. And it's massively stressing their bodies out. And because they probably haven't trained with that level of duress in firearms or tactics or hand-to-hand, it's very easy to get overwhelmed that way. And that's why proper training, you would train through that. Just like the Navy did with Top Gun, you do the same thing with the most intimate forms of combat.
To paraphrase Office Space, like, what would you say you do here? Like, isn't training and adrenaline the job of the Secret Service? I mean, wouldn't this be presumably something that your only job is this scenario?
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of.
And if they haven't, perhaps they have changed the training standards to.
Well, we've seen that with everything else, right? I mean, you don't have to know how to fly a plane; you just have to check some boxes these days. There's a lot out there.
I want to pivot really quickly because I want to. I don't know how much time my producers can tell me how much time Don has here. JD Vance.
Yeah,
you were so close to him.
Yeah.
You were his first endorsement.
Yep.
You were like on the spot, and this must be a magnificent day for you, Don.
I'm so excited. I think he's such a great talent, such a great American, such a incredible American dream story. It just when I watch him, honestly, number one beyond that, and besides the fact that he's friend. I watch him go into sort of hostile territory on CNN and MSNBC and just not accept their narrative and push back where, these people that usually beat the hell out of the reluctant conservatives who go on there once a year, he does it every weekend and just wins. And they're like, okay, it's pretty formidable. That's, we don't have too many talents like that. We don't have much of a bench in terms of the depth of the people that are actually in those positions. So you combine that with what I think is honestly, his sort of Rust Belt roots. Coming from Appalachia, dirt poor. I mean, that's going to play pretty well in a lot of these, let's call it electoral college states that are going to, move the needle. Whether it's here in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, some of these places that we're going to have to win. So I couldn't be happier. So much better than if we would have got some sort of neocon establishment rhino. I want someone who's going to actually engage and fight, and I also like someone who's young. Who can carry forward sort of the America First, that MAGA movement, and separate it from the Rhino party that's desperately trying to get back. So for me, it's a great win for America, and it's a great loss to the neocon warmonger establishment that just doesn't represent the American people in any way, shape, or form. But because they have a lot of power and they control a lot of money, and they're part of that machine. I couldn't be happier.
Surely you had insight into this process and how the decision was made. Can you tell us?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't know until sort of the last minute. I felt good, but my father plays things close to the vest. And with me, he'll make me work even harder for it. So I saw the chemistry, and he's sort of a chemistry guy that I knew. I was like, it's got to be the guy. But you have so many powerful forces in DC, and that the sort of that those groups pushing to get their guy, and he's going to be good. And you have the people that sort of they give people information, but they omit the important stuff. They only sort of give you enough information to get the answer they want, not the correct answer. So I'd get a call. Like, what about this? I go, well, did you know this? And that? No one told me that. I'm like, of course they're not, because everyone else is on someone's payroll. I'm the only one that doesn't get paid to do this shit. I just do it. Right. So it's a little different. That was I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great thing.
You've been on the record advocating for Tucker Carlson, for instance. Like, there were clips of you that went viral. You're like, hey, Tucker'd be a great VP. There's one person you were set against, and we thank you for this, Nikki Haley.
Yeah, no, I didn't want that, because that's no. Listen, I honestly, like, with the Nikki Haley, I've been saying it for a while. I'm not going to say it today in light of like the last 48 hours, but I basically said, the second his hand comes off the Bible, let's just say he'd be impeached one way, shape, or form or other. Right? It wouldn't the warmth of his hand would still be on the Bible when they started impeachment proceedings, and the swamp would supplant my father with, you're the person of their choosing, not the person of the people's choosing, not the person who's going to actually fight for the hardworking men and women of America, but who will do the bidding of the swamp and this. So, again, I understand that, everyone's going to try to play nice and do this, but like there's people that I would not have been, and I'll be very vocal about it. And if he went that way, I just, it is what it is. That's his choice to make, but I'm glad he didn't.
Can you explain the process? Was it like The Apprentice when he selected JD Vance? That is something that we don't know.
I think it frankly was probably a lot more, a lot more lobbying, so to speak, from the outside. Yeah. All these powerful groups, and again, like, you got to do this because but they don't tell you they're on the person's payroll.
Yeah, right.
So you think you're getting like an objective person. Well, they maybe worked on the campaign and in the past, so I have a relationship with them and I trust them. Oh, you're getting paid? Like, it's so bad. The swamp is so disgusting that way. So I just think it's a big loss for the swamp, which is a win for humanity.
Huge win for us.
Yeah.
You just nuked a MSNBC reporter from the floor of the convention. The convention hasn't even we've barely even gotten started.
Yeah, no,
you're already.
I walked onto the floor.
20 million views on get out of here.
Well, it was worse than that. They only played the 20-second clip of sort of the end of it, but I go out there. My brother and I, we're Tiffany. We're there. We're going to sort of throw my father over the delegate count in Florida, right?
Yes.
We're throwing him over. Florida's going to do it with the 125 delegates, whatever it is. And we're doing. And this guy. So does this mean all the hate from Trump is coming back to Washington? I go, was it hate from Trump or was it hate from you guys? Because you guys were the guys lying about Russia. You're the one that called half the country Nazis. You're the ones so. Maybe we responded, but you guys created that chaos. You guys were the ones sowing that discord. You've been proven wrong on all of these things, and you don't want any ownership of it. So the guy goes, I'm just trying to throw us over the delegate count. It has nothing to. And he goes, well, what about the 5,000 kids in cages? I go, you mean the Obama cages? And this guy lost his mind because he's a propagandist. He's a regime propagandist from MSDNC. And so I said that. I go, it was Obama cages. And he goes, no, it was. I go, You couldn't even wait 48 hours. My father was shot. Again, in a different time, in a different place, it's not a time a guy like me stays calm.
Yes.
And yet, you have to right now because we are in a different place in this country. And I'm looking at this clown. I'm like, you couldn't hold off for 48 hours before you start your lies, your propaganda, your narrative peddling. Of course it was Obama. We can check that in real time. Jay Johnson talked about it. Obama's own guy. Joe Biden's situation is 100 times worse on the migrant crisis at the border with children, with human trafficking, with fentanyl. But he wants to talk about that while negating the origins of all of it, Obama, because they can't help themselves. They can't do anything else. So, I'd like to. I think I'd put him in his place. It seems like even the lefties that have been posting be like, okay, I got to give Don the win on this one. I hate that bastard John Jr., but I got to give him the win on this one.
I hate to get extremely personal on this because I know this must be an excruciatingly exhausting roller coaster over the last 48 hours.
Yeah,
but I want to get your reaction to watching. I don't believe you were at the rally. No, I know we talked about some of the security logistics with Eric Prince, but I want to get your personal reaction. I know obviously how beloved you are by your father and how close you are with your father and how much you've given to this movement. And to see that happen, how did that progress for you emotionally? What was your initial reaction? Well, what happened next for you?
Yes, I mean, I got a phone call from Kim and she was like, your father was shot. And I'm like, we don't know anything else. I'm like, really? You couldn't say get home. It's important. So I didn't know anything for 90 minutes. So I knew my father was shot. I was out with my daughter, and some of her friends. So it was like, get all the kids, get them all home, secure it all, And so that first 90 minutes, it was just actually just trying to getting everything organized, and back in. And I'm just waiting for news. It was really once you actually found out, that's when sort of the adrenaline dump happens and sort of gets you. I was fine in the moment, actually, strangely enough. I was able to get all the kids together. I was actually out of my boat. I was like, we're going in fast. And, Saturday, late afternoon and when it all happened, I was just, being a dad in the summer. Then I got the call and I spoke to him and, he was actually, honestly, I just said, he was happy enough. And I was just like, dude, you're the biggest badass I've ever seen in my life. Like, so we're laughing about that, and like, sort of went from there. I'm like, so can I call you Evander Holyfield now with the ear? And like, so
the Netflix adaptation.
Yeah, exactly. It quickly regressed into sort of Trump family ball breaking, which was good because I think we all probably needed that after, and I'm sure he did too, right? It was like me and Kim was there, my ex-wife Vanessa was there, my daughter Kai was there, and we're just all on speakerphone, and Eric and Laura were on the other end, and then my dad.
He's sitting there on the phone with a bloody ear in the hospital.
Yeah, I asked, "How's the hair?" He goes, the hair's a little bloody. The hair's a little bloody, but the hair is solid, so it's gonna be fine for convention. Listen, he's built different.
It's incredible.
But no, it was that moment though. Hey, we're used to it, and we do plenty of it, right? Everyone, we talk a lot of shit online, and everyone's a badass on the internet, right? Everyone's a badass behind a keyboard.
Yes.
But when he stood up seconds after getting literally shot and just fight, don't ever stop. I mean, I was like, I meant it. Like that was the moment when you're actually tested. Everyone thinks they're going to do that. Most of them fold. Most of them this, and that's the kind of resolve. That's the kind of leadership our country needs to get us out of these messes. That's the kind of thing that can take on the swamp or a Putin or a Xi or the other sociopaths around the world.
Yes.
That's exactly what we need. And, if I ever had any doubts, and I haven't, it should put them aside for literally everyone else in America, because I think that's exactly what we need in these perilous times.
You are very much a shit poster. You do post a lot of memes. Arguably the best Trump at posting memes.
Yeah,
and one of the memes that is the most popular of your father is "There After You, I'm Just Standing in the Way," or there's a classic from 2016. And now that's been proven.
Yeah.
Your dad would take a bullet for this country.
Yep.
Your dad would take a bullet.
Would
and will.
Yeah.
And
it's not even conceptual anymore. Now it's actually real.
Exactly right. For the country. And that is changing the minds of so many people. My entire social media feed is choked with people who were on the fence or people who weren't going to vote, saying nothing can stop me from voting for Donald Trump now after seeing him literally take a bullet for what he believes in, but also for this nation.
Well, you've seen the narrative, you've seen the buildup of that. They vilified you and me, and we're the devil, or we're Nazis, or we're this, and half the country is those things. And if you don't believe a 3-year-old should mutilate their genitals to conform to their rainbow-haired teacher's wishes against the parents' wishes, you're the worst human being in the world. I mean, they've created that environment, and he didn't give in to that, so they tried to bankrupt him. They tried to sue him into oblivion. They tried to take away his businesses. They tried to put me in jail. Then when that didn't work, they tried putting him in jail, and they're continuing to try to do that. And when that didn't work, it was sort of, the natural progression of what was going on. I hate to say that. It's, I got all sorts of crap a couple of months ago. Tucker said, well, of course they're going to try to do something. I was like, are you even surprised? Like,
yes.
I see, not just the vitriol, prior to 6/11 or 6/13, whatever the time was, on Saturday night, but I've seen it since then. Celebrities in Hollywood, you couldn't have shot better. You couldn't have been a couple inches over it. It was almost the best day of my life. These are sick people. These are sick people, but they've been able to amass an undue amount of power while failing the American people miserably, while failing the world. We're in nonstop wars and chaos now. Our economies and crapper, hardworking Americans are being left by the wayside. And rather than actually try to do something about that, the Democrats say, we don't have to worry about the reliable voting box. We'll just bring in 20 more million people, and we'll give them Social Security cards, and we'll pass laws that say it's not really illegal to vote illegally if you didn't think you were breaking the law. And these are the people that preach a lot about democracy. They've called us fascists. They preach about democracy, and yet it feels like there's a lot of role reversal where they've been functioning as the fascists, trying to lock up their political opposition, censoring guys like you and me for as long as we've known each other, which is a long time now, censoring anyone else that may take a conservative, viewpoint, artificially boosting the other side. I mean, we're in a tough battle. When you look at the mainstream media, even today, that experience I went through on the floor, I go, in 48 hours, I'm like, this isn't like he sent out a mean tweet. Like, he was shot. You still can't help yourself. Trump derangement syndrome is real, and it has warped their minds to a point. I'm not sure some of them can ever come back, actually.
You dropped an MFer on the floor. It was pretty great. We played the clip. You went on a terror.
Yes, I was happy.
Braveheart level terror.
I was a little bit louder about the clown, but I was like, motherfucker. I was like, yeah, no, I was gonna. That was not. Yeah, like I said,
first time I've heard that on Fox.
John. Yeah, that's. I'd say some of the most constraint I've ever showed in my life.
Really quickly, all of the corporate media's takeaway so far, and we've been following a number of key reporters. Has been saying this is the feeling at this RNC is different.
Yeah,
one reporter for the AP saying this is my 10th RNC, and I've never seen such unity in the party, and I've never seen such a joyful esprit de corps. Yeah. That there's this feeling of inevitability is what this reporter for the AP is saying. Yeah. Can you just speak as a final question to the feeling of the convention this year? How is it different?
Listen, I think it feels great, but make no mistake, nothing is inevitable.
Yes.
Nothing, like foot on the gas all the way through November 5th, maybe November 9th, 12th, 15th, whatever it is the Democrats try. There is literally nothing that they won't try to do to maintain and hold power. I truly believe that. We've watched it. We've speculated about it. You've seen the commentary of nothing. Like, there was a time I would have said, the Democrat, they can only wheel Joe Biden over this finish line with so much nonsense. They could show up with 4 billion ballots and be like, this is the freest and fairest election in the history ever in a country of 330 million people, right? They would do that at this point. So there's no sense of inevitability to me. I get that people get it because it should be. It should be over. And not just based on this weekend. It should be over based on the failures of Democrat Party policies, on the disasters going on around the world, the never-ending wars, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't stop. This weekend should have strengthened that resolve further, and I think it has for a lot of regular people. But big tech, mainstream media, they're going to go into overdrive being the regime propagandists that they've been. So we can't stop. We can't take anything for granted. We just got to go full bore until November 5th.
I can't help myself really quickly. The new chief of staff, Hunter Biden, your advice to him.
Listen, I don't know. In my next life,
from president's son to president's
son.
Yeah,
in my next life, I want to come back as a Democrat because even a crackhead can be the chief of staff. It's, that is the American dream, Benny. That is the American dream. And but the fact that it's reported by Axios and people are actually talking about it like it's real. It's like, I know they got to get the last of the Biden grift in, but like, it's still not a problem. It's still not anything they're talking about. And I understand that I'm, according to them, not the upstanding citizen that Hunter Biden is, but I have a feeling I'd have been treated differently.
Oh, yeah?
Just a little bit.
When you left little baggies of Coke all
just
over
a little bit. Yeah. Well, that happened. I was out of the White House for 3 years, and they were like, it was Don Jr. I'm like,
would they blame you for the cocaine?
They said the leftist Twitter was saying it was me. I'm like, that's... that's a fact. I am a hyper and impassioned individual, but I ain't a crackhead. That's for sure.
Well, apparently they have DNA.
Yeah.
We'll find out someday.
No, we won't.
Yeah, okay.
because we know exactly who it is and we know what's happened. So thank you, Benny.
Godspeed, John. Thank you.